Hey, hi, and welcome back to World's Okayest Writer. I am J.W. Orchard, author and author of the Proactive series. Free book in the link below, and also sign up for the Dead Drop newsletter where we give our members uh, back behind the scenes information and sometimes free audiobooks. Anyways, today's topic is we are going to go ahead and we're going to talk about writing groups. And I've had this question asked to me a lot. Like, should I join a writing group? Yeah, it again with everything it depends. There are some pros and cons with writing groups. One thing is that they can be very helpful, giving you fresh eyes so you can see things. It's harder to procrastinate when you don't have when you have somebody accountability for you. They are good and bad. One of the things you need to look out for, though, in writing groups is are they there to kind of help you out? So some cons are, all right, so before we go into that real quick, one last thing is you can learn from others. Okay. Great people surrounded by other great people. Good writers are surrounded by other good writers. So when I tell you to read books of other writers, read other good writers, if that makes any sense. You can also read bad writers too. You can learn something from that. Like, hey, this is not how I would write something, and that's fine. You can, common mistakes. Some groups that maybe they've got some classes going on, or they've been to some classes, or they met something, or they read something, or whatever. So those are all very, very helpful, especially if you want to improve your craft. One of the cons, though, is you can get really bad advice. Um, how to explain this? I had an experience one time where I went someplace and the first thing it was, "Are you published?" And I said, "Well, yes, I am." And then it was, "Oh, self-published?" Yes, I am. Hey, folks out there, there's nothing wrong with being self-published. Okay, all right. You can get picked up an agent, major publisher. Rock on. You go and do your best. Okay, and I hope the best for you. But there's no shame in being self-published, especially these days where everything is out there. Right? And some of your members can critique based on what they think how your story should be written through their eyes, right? Um, and so you have to kind of learn the difference between um, good criticism and bad criticism. And I think my thing is, if you run into somebody who is helping you advance your story, and they're saying, "Hey, this is what I think," versus, "Oh, no, you have to do it. You have to do it this way." That should be kind of a tell, right? Also, you have to be willing to take advice. And on advice, remember this: nobody likes their baby attacked. All right, but I do have editors, as you know, we talked about that. I have line editors, I have story editors, and I have beta readers, and I have to be willing to take that information in of like, okay, I see your point. Now, ultimately, in the end, I, as the writer, um, can choose to keep that or not, but be willing and be open to that information. One of the other things too about one of the cons is that there's a groupthink, right? Too many cooks spoil the broth, right, or spoil the pot, or whatever the term is. And you do have a unique voice, and it may get watered down because you're like, "Whoa, this sounds better." Um, Again, right? Go back, look at what you're writing at. If honestly you can say yes, this probably would improve it. Fine, do it. If you honestly say no, fine, do it. If you don't know, that's fine too. Right? And again, not every suggestion deserves to be accepted. This is your work. This is your personal body of work. Remember what you're writing for, or whom you're writing for, or who you're writing for, and that you should be writing for yourself. Do not get in the habit of writing for your editor or writing for your group or everything else where they all go, "Well, that's the greatest thing I've ever written." You're like, okay, right? You want to improve your writing. Okay. I did have a student show up for writing class and say, "Yes, the last writing class, all they ended up doing was talking about their cats." take that as you will. There is a time commitment. Okay, remember, you're spending time writing your manuscript, and it takes time. Are you willing to devote the hour, or 2 hours, or 3 hours to the time? Now, one thing that you can hear, going back a little bit, kind of back to a pros, is they do make good networking. You can network, you can talk to people, but again, get with a group that is looking for success. Also, you probably want to check out the things you want to do, right? You want to check out what genres they write. So if you're with a writing group that does high concept fantasy, and you're a thriller writer, it may not work out the best. Even though there are some similar story mechanics that everything is a base model all the time. The question is, maybe they're not the best people to go to. They're not bad people. It's just not your genre. Also, are you getting together because it's a social event, or are you getting together because you actually are concerned about writing? So, questions you need to ask: are you with groups of people that finish their book? Right? Do they have finished work? And it doesn't necessarily need to be a book. Whether they write short fiction or they write other types of fiction, and I'll have an episode on that. It's okay, right? But do they finish the work they put out? Next thing is the feedback, is it respectful? Right? Oh, you should do this, or this is horrible, or whatever. Again, nobody likes their baby attacked. Okay. And in the writing community, and it can be soul crushing. I have had some criticism that it had not been for my overall personal attitude, I may have stopped writing because it was just so condescending. And I went, wait a minute, these guys are meeting in a Starbucks in a Barnes and Noble. They were advertising they met at Barnes and Noble. Slightly different. So you have to do context, okay? They're right. Does the group encourage you? They encourage each other, like, hey, tell me what's going on, or whatever. And when you leave the meeting, do you feel motivated or defeated? I just talked about that. And remember, this is about writing. Eventually, I'm going to go ahead and start a Discord channel. So those of you that are out there that want to have questions or we want to talk, that's fine. The rules, of course, will be respectful, so on and so forth. But we can talk about all that. And remember, okay, that in the end, it is your manuscript, your piece of writing, your memoir, whatever you're going to call it, okay, whatever you're going to write, it's yours. So the tip of the day is, as always, right, do your research when it comes to your writing groups, right? Find what works for you. And if it doesn't, well, there's nothing wrong with that either. Other than that, I do want to thank you all very much for spending time with me today and going this long. We do appreciate it. And again, as always, don't forget to write.